Okay, folks, welcome back to another episode of Into the Code. This week I am joined by the one and only Bridgeburner of Hellforge Studios.
How's it going?
Now it's going pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. It's fucking very, very warm here in New Zealand. Currently trying not to turn into a puddle, but other than that, yeah, things are going good.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, so if you hear a little bit of a fan in the background, no worries. We want to make sure Bridge here doesn't melt to death because he's got a lot on his plate still.
If you want any kind of coherent answers, yeah, the fan stays on.
Yeah. But it's good. Like I was saying, we want to make sure that you don't completely melt because you've got a lot going on at the moment. The big thing is, of course, Age of Hell. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But for starters, I want you to have a chance to, introduce yourself and start from there.
Yeah, well, I wear a few hats. It's quite interesting. Who kind of thinking, who am I as far as like people who know me? But the obvious answer one is, yeah, I founded a company called Hellforge Studios a couple of years ago. A little indie publisher / developer thing I've got going. So a lot of the people listening probably know me most for that. We've got about a dozen games signed now. It's going really, really well. This year's shaping up to have some things pop out, so I won't make too much here. But yeah, got an exciting year planned for that. I'm the project lead for Age of Hell, which is my game that I've been working as a game for the last 3 years, 3.5, something like that. Before that, it was a Doom mod, and that's the other hat that I wear is a Doom mapper. That's kind of where I cut my teeth on things and built a bit of a name for myself. Started I've been dabbling with that kind of stuff for probably 20 years, playing around with a level editor and just making stuff just for myself. I never released anything. It was just a hobby that I really enjoyed, and in and out, gaps in it. Wasn't anything I did super seriously until 2018, when I actually finally created a Doom World account. It took that long.
Yeah.
And I shared some screenshots of one of my old maps. Just posted them in one of the general sharing channels. Be like, oh, this looks pretty cool. I was like, people like this. Maybe I'll get back into it. And it all took off from there. So I released my first public map in 2019. Beginning of 2019. Technically, it was Christmas 2018, but that was for a community project called The Joy of Mapping, run by Legend of Doom, one James Paddock. Probably best known now these days for doing the music for Sigil 1 and 2. But just an absolute, called a titan of the community, just prolific mapper, amazing musician, real helpful guy as well. Now he's involved in commercial stuff. He's working on Supplice. He's doing music for Hellforge games. He's a very, very talented man. But yeah, that was the first map that I ever released was for one of his. No longer happening the series, the Joy Mapping series, but because they were getting too popular. Joy Mapping 6 was 72 maps. He was like, this is exhausting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where it all started.
Awesome. So let's jump on to. Well, you already answered who you are, who do you work for, what do you do. You answered all that. What would be your earliest video game memory?
Well, that's a good question. There's a couple there that bubble up. I despite really enjoying making first-person shooters, that's not my favorite genre of game to play. I grew up playing strategy games, RTS, and 4X. So Dune 2 is a pretty early memory. I think that was the first RTS ever released by Westwood Studios, kind of a precursor to Command and Conquer. Definitely up before Warcraft. Yeah. I only found out relatively recently that Dune 2 had Frank Kopacki do the soundtrack as well. It's got this awesome kind of ambient drone sci-fi thing. Very cool. So that's pretty early. Catacombs 2D, the top-down dungeon shooter. that's a real early game that I loved, and probably Lemmings as well. I love Lemmings. Lemmings is, I was never that good at it.
Yeah.
But I played it a lot because mostly just it was fun to watch the Lemmings get killed.
Yeah.
Particularly in Oh No More Lemmings, there are some really devious and evil traps in there, like this mechanized gallow that would rip their heads off. And it's just I was fascinated by that as a kid. I don't know what that says about me, but yeah, that's probably the main three, the earliest ones that I really remember playing.
Cool.
Didn't have a console until I was probably 10ish. Did have a Game Boy though. Actually, my parents used to host Japanese students, and one of them. This is like almost before Game Boys were even available in the country here in New Zealand. One of the guests gave us 2 Game Boys as a thank you. As a whole
that's very generous. Thank you.
Yeah. So I had Mario and Tetris and Alleyway, and it was great for the long car drives up and down the country to keep the kids distracted. So those are probably the earliest memories I have of gaming. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, I had a big RTS kick back in my early years of gaming. We had StarCraft. We had it was StarCraft 1 and then Brood War. And then Warcraft 3 came out, and my brother and I got really into that. And then when we would go visit family, one of my uncles had Red Alert on his computer.
Red Alert was great.
So those were always fun to play.
I never got really that into. I tried them. I played them a fair amount, but the Blizzard RTS, StarCraft and Warcraft, I didn't gel with them as much as I did with Command and Conquer and Red Alert. My favorite Supreme Commander and Total Annihilation. The scale of those are just phenomenal. But what Warcraft 3 actually made a mod for it. Got it to a working. It wasn't finished, but I made UAC versus Demons as 2 races to fight. And actually got to the point where I was getting people online testing it with me, and it was fun. The editor for Warcraft 3 was powerful.
That's how
Dota came out of it.
Dota. Yeah.
Tower defense games were made there. I'm sure there was something similar to that before Warcraft, but they were immensely popular there as well. I love playing tower defense. So I'm not a huge multiplayer gamer historically, but the tower defense working together against PvE kind of thing, that was a bit of me. And you could jump on for half an hour and do a few rounds and yell at people who weren't holding up their end of the track. Look at this noob, doesn't know what to build. Warcraft 3 modding was insane. It was really impressive. I think a lot of aspiring devs really, I think, would have cut their teeth on that because it was a very easy but powerful to use editor. You could edit all the unit stats, just everything, but in a nice kind of like menu format. Didn't have to know how to code. And the way that triggers worked, set up a box in the editor, and when things walked into it, stuff would happen, and you just attacked, almost like a node graph system. It was a really good editor. I made some maps for Red Alert as well, but that was just like placing cliff shapes, and that's about all you could do. That was a pretty basic editor.
That's always interesting to see games that have tools that make it easy to either modify the game, like Doom. You can go in, you can change certain values if you have like the source code and things like that, or if you have a level editor, things like that. How games such as those just lead to this onset of creativity from the community. You've got so many great examples of games that started off as just like some guy just goofing around, and then it's like it becomes genres. You've got Dota. We mentioned that earlier. Dota wouldn't exist without Warcraft 3.
No. And like you said, it's not just a new game, it's an entire genre got invented.
Team-based shooters, you could say, to an extent, like Team Fortress 2, that wouldn't exist without Quake, and so on.
And Counter-Strike was a mod. Had the Half-Life modding community,
Yep.
kind of ecosystem gave rise to a lot of big IPs and creativity. It is interesting looking at what games have that happen, and it's not. And ease of use tools are a big part of it. But there's more stuff made for Doom than there is for Quake. Quake has a very there's still a big Quake mapping community and Quake modding community. It's just no small thing, but Doom's is magnitudes bigger. And I just part of me just wonders why, because Quake was and it is a very popular game. People like it. Quake's got a much bigger remaining multiplayer scene. Quake really shines in that format. So it's just something that I often just a thought pops into the head. I wonder why it is like that.
I wondered that too, because I've messed around in Trench Room a little bit, and I haven't. One of my goals for this year is to open up Ultimate Doom Builder and mess around in that a little bit, just to get my feet wet. And I've always thought that maybe it's because it's being a fully 3D environment that adds a certain magnitude of complexity that some people don't want to touch.
Yeah, because with Doom, you draw a triangle. You've got a playable space. Like put the player spawn in there. The engine gives it automatically gives it height. You don't whereas with Quake, yes, you have to define each face of a cube to create, and then the box to then So there's a few more steps with Quake in the way that brushes work. So you're probably right there that there's a slightly higher, not that much, but just a slightly higher barrier for entry with Quake than for Doom. Doom's the first step in figuring out how to make a Doom map is really, really easy. You can make a playable map in 5 minutes without knowing anything. A space that you can walk around in, and being able to have that very quick both gratification and feedback, feeling of hey, I did the thing. I've created the space that I can look at, and even if it's simple, it's still something. But also then you can get a feel for the space. What do I want to put here? I might put some enemies here. I might put a door here. I might put some stairs here. You can get into the world and start looking around and thinking about how you're going to fill it out. I think having that quick feedback loop with the way that the Doom engine works, you don't have to, because in Quake you have to compile them, for some of the lighting at least, you have to compile, which can take time, and the Doom stuff's bang, you're in there. It's and I feel like Doom's also got more pre-made asset packs to play with than Quake. Most Quake maps I see use a lot of the standard textures. There's obviously arcade dimensions, and there's plenty of stuff that is like McCollum, obviously, one of the best texture creators out there, has made all sorts of stuff for Quake. But Doom has an infinite amount of resources you can play with. So if you want to actually make mods and have different, not standard Doom stuff, whether it's weapons or enemies or textures or whatever, there's just so much out there to play with. Very kid in a candy shop kind of thing.
Yeah, I was thinking about, there was some website that I think people went to get textures. I think David Zemansky and some of the other New Blood guys were talking about it not too long ago, that you used to be able to, as long as you had an account on this website, you could use it. Yeah, and then now they're going to a subscription model or something like that.
I did see
that. And then it made me think of, for Doom specifically, there's Realm 667.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so, hey, if you want to have if you're tired of cacodemons, you can put this in, put this in.
Or even if you just want something as simple as a different torch,
Yeah.
Just those little flavor items, and they're very easy to add in, to your resources. Once you figure out how to do one of them, you can do it with all of them. And I think that variety is a big part of what's so strong about the Doom community. There's still people now making up whole swaths of new stuff, like the Ave Eternity 2 just came out.
I still got to play through that.
Oh, it's so good. And bro, I haven't played single player Doom in any real serious way probably for like 18 months. I was like, all right, I'm going to break my drought with Ev Eternity 2. And it was just, it was three sessions, almost 20 hours it took me to get through. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's incredible quality.
Yeah.
Definitely instant classic, people talk about for 20 years kind of wad. Very cool that level of, things are getting even like, as good as things have been made for Doom. Ev Eternity 1 is a good example. Like Ev Eternity 2 is better. Like the quality, the ceiling for quality keeps going up and up and up. It's pretty. I'm sure there's a point where people will run out of ideas, but we haven't found it yet.
It was a big thing for me this year when seeing the reaction that everyone had with My House WAD, and it's just being, the you have a guy who hasn't been on to Doom World in like over a decade, just come out of the blue and just release something that uses all these little tricks and techniques that, no one else, is either using the same way that he did or, in combination, all that good stuff. And just blowing everyone's minds of like, wow, you've got this house, but it's not just this one particular house. He's made all of these 20 different versions of this house so that when you go outside, visually it looks like it's the same house, but it's not. And you've got these invisible teleporters that you're going through, whether you're going from the upstairs or the downstairs, all this stuff. I forget what the channel's name is, but it's a guy who he did like a deep dive of the technical aspects of, here's how Veg did all these tricks in GC Doom.
Yeah, because like the techniques, in isolation, none of them are. There's a couple of things that were quite hard because I know a fair amount about My House, including who actually made it. No, I'm not going to tell you.
Rats.
No. We're not leaking that. And it was, this is someone who knows how to map. This all took them years of work. It's 160,000 lines. Like it's massive map. Each of the pieces in isolation isn't particularly complicated. There's some tricky things in there. There's a secret that you can find only by dying. That's a pretty impressive piece of coding. I know who did that. That was Kevin. This is public info. This one, it was Kevin's, who figured that one out. So there is definitely some like technical marvelry in there, but most of the map itself, each thing in isolation is a relatively straightforward process to build. The thing that's impressive with My House is the way it's all interwoven into this cohesive narrative journey. So, because there's been these kinds of maps before, these wormholey maps where everything looks normal, then you go through a teleporter and it's not. Things change. Like there's been some pretty good ones done, and this is a whole other level. But it's not a traditional fighting map, so that it's folded in this beautiful narrative journey, tied in with some kind of like external lore around the creator, some stories there, and the whole House of Leaves thing. So there's a broader narrative than you'd normally see in a Doom community map, and all the mystery around it is just the perfect example of modern viral marketing. Definitely exploded way more than anyone could have imagined. It put House of Leaves back on the bestseller list. People were making videos that got 20 million views kind of thing.
I was just about to mention that.
It smashed outside of the usual kind of Doom cultural boundaries and got properly into the wider media. All these reviewers and people who talk about stuff they don't want to talk about Doom got really interested in it, and that was a fascinating experience. Some negative stuff happened. I'm not going to go too much into it, but there's definitely created some problems as well because of that virality. There's a certain type of person on the internet who wants to go find the house because this was built based on a real house.
Yeah.
And the what's it called? Augmented reality gamers. Thought that started digging really deep and there was doxing. There's some pretty nasty stuff happened, but that's all simmered down. There wasn't too much lasting damage from it, which is good. Because the good thing that I did notice is the actual Doom community really respected the wish for privacy, and kind of didn't put up walls or anything, but didn't lean into it, didn't bring it to their own doorstep. As it were, all that stuff kind of stayed out in the wider media, and places like Doom World, it didn't get too frenzied. But no, it's a fascinating project. The kind of thing you could study at university. Do a paper on like the layers that are presented there. That's great one.
Yeah, not every day you have someone like John Romero actually sit down and live stream playing something that you made like that, or you have X number of YouTube essays are really big right now, so you've got X number of YouTubers making 2-hour long essays on like oh my gosh, House of Leaves, it's it's all connected, here's all the possible theories of what happened. Is this guy schizophrenic or
that's funny.
What does
like,
it mean?
If you know the things, it's like I know the answer to all those questions, and the creator is not schizophrenic. But it's interesting. I think it's interesting seeing people's imaginations go down those paths. And like you say, these big these people like making long videos, analyzing, and it's like that's the good thing about art is you can read into what you want, and explore ideas that maybe weren't deliberately put in there by the creator, but just because they didn't intend it doesn't mean that they're not there. And you can't draw them out and pull out your own stories and stuff. And I think that's one of the best things about things that get made like that. Different people get to see different things, and then they can get together and discuss them. And I don't know, that's quite interesting.
Art can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
And speaking of art, I want to jump in, take a slight tangent, and talk about Age of Hell. Because I recorded about an hour and a half of gameplay for that. And that was my first. I had played it earlier back when the demo first came out.
The old demo, yes.
I played for the first update for the demo. I played for about 30 minutes. So this was my first proper deep dive into it. And I picked up I don't know how many weapons. I got up to the rocket launcher, the Trinity launcher.
Yeah, so that's a decent chunk through.
Yeah, and I did the Tribulation.
Oh, you did the secret fight. You're officially a gamer.
Good, excellent. Got that badge. I wanted to pick your brain on that because for the main things that I noticed were this is an all-out presentation on here's the cool things that you can do in GZ Doom. Here's how you can push the envelope. Here's these big open cavernous spaces, lots of architectural flair, and lots of I haven't played these games, but I know of them through cultural osmosis. Lots of Painkiller influence. And also at least for me, in terms of the enemy design, also a lot of blood, especially Chernobog specifically. There's a couple of enemies. I guess it's the stand-in for the imp. It's this kind of looks like Chernobog from Blood. And then there's sometimes they're riding on these dog demon things as well. And it's okay, that's the stand-in for the Cacodemon. That's the Mancubus kind of. But all that to say, what I played I was thoroughly impressed with what I played. The scale of it, the new textures for the enemies, the architectural design was really top notch. Level design is also, it's big, but it's not overwhelming, which I appreciate because I have trouble with directions sometimes and getting lost.
Yeah.
So it's nice and big, but it's also not maze like, which is good. And I got to give you props for the tribulations. 'Cause I was like, this is very much like, those Slayer gates. And it tells you, hey, if you want to get out of here, go for these enemies, or else you're just going to have a bad time and have fun. And I had a blast.
Well, thanks. Glad to hear it. Yeah, so because it started off as a Doom mod originally, the idea was when it was a mod, total conversion, that each of the new enemies would be a direct replacement. So the Dread is the Imp, the Slaughter Dial's the Demon, the Cacavore is the Cacodemon, and they were designed. So I do because we've since tweaked things, but they were designed to be very similar in flavour, and the way that the niche that they filled in the combat. And then because we released an old demo a couple of years ago, and which was good, but it still felt very much like a Doom mod, it didn't present itself as a new game. It threw you into things too quickly. Like as a standalone map, it was great. Like it played really well, but it was also like quite punishing, and people bounced off. It had performance issues as well, which didn't help. Some weird things that I'm still not entirely sure what was happening. So people bounced off it, not like super hard, but it wasn't like as far as a commercial game goes. The bar, what didn't meet, quality standards, I guess is probably the way to put it. What I wanted the game to be, probably more accurately. So we took that off Steam. That's when the big watershed moment was developing in-house people who can make new textures. So I bought a couple of copies of Substance Designer for some friends, and said, "You want to go for the sake of a few $100? Let's see what we can do." And within like 3 months, one guy in particular, Velvetic, who's also one of the level designers for Age of Hell, had spat out like 800 textures. Just blah. It's like, okay, we've got enough here to work with. Like, not perfect. We needed refinement. We needed more, all that kind of stuff. But we had a base. It's like, cool. I can do this. So my original plan was to just retexture the old demo, and then I started like rebuilding sections because I want to put a proper tutorial section at the beginning, and I started, and I was like, no, I'm just going to remake everything. So I used the old map as a layout plan and essentially replicated that. But because one of the issues in the original demo was everything was very tight. The combat was very claustrophobic. If you made a mistake, you died instantly. Again, fine for a Doom mod or where people are used to those kinds of experiences. But for a new game and a demo, wasn't the best lead-in for people coming into this kind of thing fresh, and no experience, or people who haven't played Doom or that good at it or anything like that. So it's like, no, it's a bit rough on new players in particular. So I was like, no, we're going to draw out the difficulty curve. We're going to tutorialize things. We're going to open up the space so there's more room to move, so you're not pinned against the wall if you make a single misstep. And for me, it felt like, well, this is all very easy and open, but then, the thing you'll find with indie devs is they get very, very good at their own games because they're always testing it. It's like, okay, cool. Because I get to through the whole thing without dying now. I've played it that many times, but it's like, cool. That's going to be very different to everyone else's experiences. So, with that in mind, we set out, because I made the map, set up making it and just crafting it. And part of that was also learning a new workflow, creating a lot of models from the editor. So Doom Builder has a model export tool. So every arch that you see, just about every curved element is actually a model. Very, very good for performance. And while it takes time to make, then you've got these modular assets that you can reuse. So you get faster. So it took a good just over a year from woe to go, but a lot was learned, and that model export technique with Doom Builder really started feeling good. Yeah, the difference was phenomenal. You could do all this detail and all this crazy stuff and have it, run pretty well for GZ doing. There's a couple of areas that will dip a little bit in frame rate, but most of the time it's above 80. Which I'm pretty happy with considering the amount of enemies that are on screen and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So that was a big part of the new demo, the mindset. And yeah, we worked on tweaking the enemies. So you're talking about the Mancubus, we call him the Girth Strider. He's got the mechanical legs. Instead of just doing the normal spread shot, he's got a volley, artillery attack now that leaves damage on the ground. So there'll still be more tweaks. We completely reworked the Bone Reaver, which was our Revenant equivalent, just made a new sprite. It's now got a couple of different attacks and it behave. It occupies the same niche as a Revenant. It's a pressure enemy, fairly glass cannony. You can kill them quick. He's good to use in swarms, but there's enough different there for them to feel like their own thing now. So I'm really happy with how that all the whole gameplay loop came together. Yeah, you mentioned the tribulation, so that is 100% borrowed, quote unquote, from the Doom Eternal Slayer Gates. So we were going to call them Crusader Gates. That's what we're calling them internally. But tribulation, like they're a trial by fire kind of thing, which links into the lore because you're a Crusader who needs to be tested. And that was like, okay, how will people actually respond to me when I make an actually difficult arena? By my skill set standards, and also with how will they respond to a constantly spawning set of enemies that keep pressuring you? Again, same as Doom Eternal, because in Doom Eternal there's always fodder spawning until you kill the key. The Slayer Gate might be five Mancubus or 3 Cacodemons or whatever it is. There's those key trigger enemies to progress. So cool, we're going to use that as a model. I'm going to make it a bit more objective focused. So there's switches to press, sections to unlock. So most of them will probably be a little bit smaller than the one that I put in the demo. But I wanted to test this concept, and people fucking love it.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of people who have gone and they're like, this is rude. It's like, yes, it is. But people seem to really enjoy it, yeah.
It's an optional challenge, and at least the one that I played, which, like you said, probably bigger than the rest of them will be, that took me, 30 minutes just to do that. Because I died quite a few times, and it was, I don't know it's the stand-in for. It's the part where
with the big flaming skull enemy.
No, it's the stand-in for the Spider Mastermind, I think.
Yes,
and then it's got the
fire
Revenant. Yep. And then what are the things that throw red hammers?
The Juggernauts. Yeah. So they're our Cyber Demon tier.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that fight, that side, that one is the hardest fight in the entire demo.
Yeah, that's what killed me like 8 times.
It's like, I kind of want to tweak it, but it's not a huge amount of point now. But it's like, I like it though. I like it. It's one of those fights I want to nerf it slightly. The key there, and this is actually an issue of tutorialization, the key to beating that fight is the Rage Sphere with the hammer is throwing, because you can throw your hammer and it does ridiculous amounts of damage when you've got the Rage Sphere on. It rips through enemies like it's piercing, sets them on fire. You can often one-shot even the Juggernaut guys. That's the key, because that gives you range, and it also heals you, and you get damage reduction, all the good shit. But I hadn't specifically tutorialized that when you've got rage, the thrown hammer is also buffed. We tutorialized melee is buffed. There's that early fight that teaches you that, but I hadn't done a section where like throwing your raged hammer is very, very effective. So that's something for me to keep in mind for the full game. I'll make sure it's in there. Really happy with how that whole setup worked. Having the little kill bar with the face of the monster that you're trying to kill, that was a good touch, because that was another issue with the initial, because that arena was in the old demo as well. People didn't know what to do. So how do we teach people? It's like, well, have a bar that moves up as you kill things. Like, there's a face above it. Things like that to help. We're quite tempted to put a marker above the target enemies as well, just a little skull or something floating above their head to help signal. Just because you don't want people running around not knowing what to do for too long. Tutorialization is half your time it feels like is setting up teaching elements for your game, like how to make sure people have a smooth experience, and don't bump off like the simplest of things in your own head as the creator. Like, this is obviously a switch.
Yes.
People go like, that's not a switch. I'm not going to go press it. Like, good example in Doom. There's certain textures that are known as like lifts. So, and Doom players will go wall hump everything. If they fall in a pit, they'll go run around the walls and press U's on everything to try and get out of it. There's numerous like pits and lifts in Age of Hell, and I was like, I made the walls all lowerable, and every one of them you can get out of it. There's no inescapable pits in my games. Everyone would fall in and just go, oh, I'm stuck. It's like, I thought this would be really obvious, guys, but it's not. So I went and put a switch in. A switch on every wall that you can lower now also has a switch, to make it really, really obvious. So like even the things that you assume based on past experiences, people will behave like this. No. Don't assume anything. Assume that they will not do what you want, and you have to lead the player very gently by the hand and point their head at the thing that you want them to do.
Yeah.
There's another moment, I don't know if you realize, in the path to the tribulation, the secret path, there's a big open cavern with these hanging braziers and stuff, and there's a big archway that you go through.
Well, that's there's actually a big star that I was like, do I have to jump into that?
Yeah.
So I just jumped into the cavern, and then it teleported me to new areas. Like, oh, okay, I was meant to do that.
Nope. So the big arch itself is actually a portal. It's a door. It teleports you to the other side of the chasm. And what would happen was people would walk in. They'd walk up to the archway. They'd go through it, go to the other side, walk around it, go, oh, this, and then walk back. Like, I wanted to have this cool, subtle, cheeky, sneaky effect. It was too sneaky. No one realized what had happened, and they go back through it, and they'd actually walk backwards. And I was just like pulling my hair out. I want it to be cool and spooky, but also everyone's getting lost. So I made it a one-way trip. You can't actually exit. You can't actually backtrack now. I put some bars in, and then I added some extra detailing to make it clear, like the big hanging star, that it is you're on the other side, guys, and then added more lighting to make it more obvious. But yeah, so again, it's just one of those things. Like, man, I thought people would behave like this, and they behaved completely differently, and created a whole host of new issues for me.
I mean, at the end of the day, you could always just use the Sandy Peterson method and just draw a big arrow on the map if it gets really bad. It's like, hey, this way.
I mean, it's a secret path to a secret fight. And, it's like it can be. You can get. It's okay for people to miss it. Like, but having that particular confusion was not what I wanted. And by the time you got to that point, you've earned the path. You should be able to progress easily there. So yeah, no, it's been really interesting and a really good learning experience. Like you're having, like you say, the map's big, but it's mostly linear. My favorite mapping style is things that appear to be really non-linear, convoluted and looping, but in reality, actually, it's a very simple path through the map. Doom Eternal does this really well. A map like Super Gore-esque, it feels like this massive convoluted structure. It's a really engrossing environment. You're going through all these different parts of it. You're looping through that central section a couple of times. It's a linear path at the end of the day. It's actually like if you mapped out the key points, it's a straight line. But it doesn't feel like it, because clear linearity often doesn't feel that interesting as an experience. So you don't want it to feel linear. But yeah, striking that balance and people not getting lost is what I aim for. So,
incidentally, Super Gore-esque is my favorite map in Eternal, and I think a lot of it is because if you drew it on a map, it's linear, but it does all of these tricks so that you don't notice it.
Correct.
Not conscious of the linearity.
And the way it loops back into areas that you've been in from different angles, and I've talked to Junction 8 a few times about it. They did a really good job on that. Because interestingly, Doom 2016 has some genuinely non-linear maps. Argent NEG Tower, not Tower, the one before that. It's Argent NEG Facility, the Foundry. There's some maps that are a very branching path. Still not terribly confusing, but genuinely non-linear. You can pick which order to do things in. So it's interesting having that shift in philosophy from Doom 2016 to Doom Eternal. But just going back to the tribulations. One thing I wanted to have them is because secret fight, hard fight. You go in there, you get beaten up for 40 minutes. There's rewards in there, so that's the payoff. Is I want to have a reason to go there. So similar to the Slayer Gates, where you get your upgrade points. It's like, cool, you want to do this? This actually, if you can get through it, this will actually make your life easier. Yes. So I think there's three chests in the demo tribulations. It'll probably be one just at the end for the main game, but because it's a big one and it's a single map. The demo, I don't have to worry about the power curve for future maps in the demo. So I'll give the player a good amount of reward for braving this arena. That's actually another one of the things that I think is actually it was an accidental almost development is the upgrade chest that we've got. Obviously, upgrades aren't new in games. Doom 2016 and Eternal did them very, very well in a first-person action game setting. But ours are all randomized, so there's a kind of roguelike build creation element. It's like, what am I going to get here? And that means every playthrough potential will be different. Because it started in, I don't know if you saw, but there's the hammer mode, Path of the Dawnbreaker option, where you just have your hammer the entire game. That was where the upgrade started, just to balance that out as well. Okay, we'll buff the hammer a little bit. Like if you kill a certain number of enemies, you activate Rage. You get 5 seconds as part of the combat loop, but also you get a whole lot of upgrades as you progress. All the weapons, and the replaced weapons, they get replaced with these upgrade chests. And that, like Coda, the original demo, he spat that out 2 weeks before we launched it. It's just, where did this come from? Holy shit, this is so much fun. So now we've taken that system and put it into the main game as well. So we have the upgrades for all the weapons. We didn't have anything for the pistol in the demo, but there will be. And I think that's really transformed the gameplay. So many people say, like, this is my favorite part, as the ability to change how things go, change the gameplay loop. I'm really excited to see what we can do with that. I actually think that the most fun way to play is hammer mode. It's just such a visceral, like, it's mostly melee, and you're just charging into combat, beating the hell out of things with this big hammer. It's come out really, really good. I'm really happy with how that all works.
Certified Thor mode.
Yeah, well, you can throw your hammer. It's funny because, like, I remember when we first started, like, starting to shift into, maybe this is a standalone game mode. I wanted a melee weapon that was iconic and relevant throughout the game, still useful, still worth switching to. Even when you've picked up a rocket launcher, the hammer still has some viability. And that was just a dream that I had, because Doom's chainsaws a bit shit. You only use it when you're really tight on ammo. Same with the Berserk. Most first-person shooter games, the melee weapon's like a tool of last resort. I was like, no, I want people to want to use the hammer. And so many people said, like, man, I was playing, I just didn't want to. I just kept using the hammer. It's just so much fun. So I think we really nailed that. Because even without the upgrades, it still packs a punch. There's a throwing. It's like an infinite ammo rocket launcher, essentially, just with a slightly slower fire rate. So it's got a lot of utility, and it's a really hard thing in game design is to keep all weapons useful.
Yeah.
Classic one is in Doom 2. You get the super shotgun, and then you almost never use the single barrel again. Having reasons to pull out each weapon, different use cases is important, but one of the harder things to pull off, I think, making everything viable all the time. Because if you make them all too viable, you end up with the problem that Doom 2016 had, which is everything's too powerful. All the weapons just kind of kick ass, which is good fun, but the balance was quite skewed. And you could just pick one weapon and not have to change it. There was no need to think about what you were using in Doom 2016. Whereas Doom Eternal, particularly the base game, I think they really nailed it. Like, different weapons have different use cases and are good at doing different things, whether it's shooting weak points or crowd control or whatever it might be. So yeah, trying to strike that balance is just it's a tricky one. But and the upgrades help a lot with that because they add a lot of utility and functional variance to the weapon set.
Yep. Player choice, player expression. If I want to use the what do you call the chain gun?
That is the Judicator.
Judicator. That's right. Do I want it to? I forget what one of the options were. It was 25% less ammo consumption or something else. What am I feeling today?
Exactly. Like, which one leans in? Do I find myself running out of ammo? Like, well, here's an option to not run out of ammo so much. If that's all, there's one that removes all the movement penalties. So if you find yourself, when doing the alt fire in particular, your movement speed gets slowed down. If you find yourself getting mugged, well, you can completely change that. You can move freely and just giving people the ability to lean into what they like to do, or where they feel the weapons might have a weak point. They can mitigate it. And that randomized system, just like it's a good dopamine game. It's what's going to be in the chest? What am I going to get?
Make me think of the what was it? I never played COD Zombies too much, but there's a chest that you get where it's like it randomizes what you get every now and then. I can't remember what it is. Someone who listens to this will probably correct me.
I mean, it's not like we've done anything new and revolutionary here, but it's in a setting that it's more like maybe a Metroidvania. Metroidvania, is that the kind of game I'm thinking of? Loot boxes, they exist everywhere. Yeah. It's a bit like that, but there's a bit more thought behind it. They're placed, and this is a chest upgrade for this specific weapon. Within that, it's randomized what will pop out, but you can get two choices, so there's always a bit of like, okay, that one's a bit. If that card's really shit, no, I don't really want that one. Good chance the other one's going to be at least something you're interested in. So that balance of RNG choice, mapper control from my perspective of what's been put there. It feels like it would hit the sweet spot for balancing those things.
Yeah, great. I think if I can make one suggestion, is that
that would be highly illegal.
Oh well, call me a smooth criminal then. So if I can make one suggestion, if you want to keep with the cool, kind of biblical naming convention for stuff, if you want to have a harder tribulation, you can call them lamentations.
Lamentations,
because you're going to lament this experience, because it's going to, crush your nuts and make you rue the day you woke up.
I'm going to put that on my project notes.
Yeah,
I like that word.
Oh, great. Next part that I want to move on to is, I think you pretty much kind of answered these questions already, but what's something that you dislike about what you do? Probably, like you mentioned, balance seems to be something. I'm sure every game developer would say balance can just be a nightmare because, like you said, you get really good at the game because you have to play it a lot, and you will get accustomed to hey, I know this is going to happen. I'm going to have I go over to this corner. I'm going to grab this weapon. I'm going to do this, that, and the other, and then you kind of get desensitized to it, and then having to keep in mind, hey, maybe the person who's playing this isn't a Doom World regular. They're just seeing it for the first time. They have no frame of reference. Tell us about something that you really like about what you do and what you dislike about what you do.
Because level design is my passion and my skill set, and the thing that it turns out I seem to be fairly good at. I love that. I love building. I love building spaces. My day job's construction, and it's I draw a lot of my designs from like real world architecture. I don't think there's anything in the demo that was inspired by it's in the main game, and there's a particular map in episode 1 where there's like structures that are all inspired by motorway supports and overpasses and stuff like that. Probably wouldn't think it to look at them, but that's where I got that from. There's a facade that was Soviet circus building. So I do this a lot. I love seeing things where we're like trying to recreate them in the engine because there's an interesting challenge there, and these things look cool, and I like making cool looking shit. So I love building these environments and just letting my imagination run wild. So that's my favorite part, is actually just building the levels. The least. It's funny. So the demo, the thing that stresses me out the most is uploading new builds, particularly to Steam. It's like, have I missed something? What have I broken? Is this going to explode? Will people hate me for it? Like, I'm paranoid of like just missing a file, because I do make mistakes like with that kind of stuff. I'll copy the wrong thing over into the build and shit. No, there's been a little mishap there. There's a little bit of code missing or something. We got the versioning wasn't quite right. That's the thing that stresses me out the most. It's a flaw I know in my attention to detail. But then coupled with a little bit of paranoia, that worries me. Uploading new builds. It wasn't just for Steam though. It's even with Doom maps. It's like, shit, have I put the right map file? It's not just me. Divine Frequency, one of the builds, fortunately got tested before it went live. He just completely forgot to put the map files into the build at all. So the game didn't work. So fortunately, it's not just me. But the thing I dislike, that feels, well, not dislike's not quite the right word, but it feels like a real chore, are those. Balancing I'm quite fine with. I don't mind that. I was surprised I didn't get sick of playing the game when we were getting the demo ready, because I played it so much. Just testing and testing and testing and testing. Mainly looking for things that are broken rather than balance. So balance testing, I'm pretty good at getting quite good first try these days. And then it's just tweaking. It's actually not that hard. Leave a few enemies, a little bit more ammo. The time it takes to test everything, like a full run of the demo, going pretty quickly, is about an hour. There's a bit of time there, but I did those fine tweaks. Like we were refining things like user interfaces and level transitions, all these not fun parts, the tutorialization. These are not part of the gameplay per se. They don't affect me. I don't need these things. I don't need the screen to have a smooth transition from map chunk to map chunk, because I know that GZ Doom lags when it loads a new level, but that's a point of friction for the player, so we need to smooth that out. Those things, I think, were the more painful elements, was working through all that, because there's some quite technical stuff happening there, getting it to time right, and it's just testing and testing and testing. I was working with my coder, Mr. Cat. Like we did like a 14-hour day the day before. We launched it. Just like, it was time so well spent, and that was a combination of like 3 or 4 weeks of really intense work as well. It's absolutely shattered. I took the day off work to do it, to give ourselves the time, and it was very much time well spent. So the product was the satisfying thing, is we did good work. Got good results. The finished product was that much better, that much smoother. We just jammed in all these extra little bits and pieces, extra menu options, and all these things that you don't really think about as a player or as a modder, but are vital for people to have a good, smooth experience with your game. Those elements, they're hard work, and they're not fun. The fun part of game dev, but they're so vital. Fortunately, they're usually stuff that you only have to do really work through once. Like once it's working, once your menu's working, once you've got your transition set up, then you just take that transition element and you roll it through the rest of your maps. So that's the good news with that kind of stuff, is it tends to be a one-off or close to it. So now that we've tutorialized these sections, even with the main game, it'll be a different map. They'll be presented differently. I know what's set up to do to tutorialize the dash and the hammer and the parry and all those things. We have the text box code set up. It's going to be easy to transpose that into the main game. That last day before we launched, it was tiring. I think I probably spent like 30 or 40 hours just playing Age of Hell in those last couple of weeks. Just to demo that over and over and over again. Was surprised that I didn't actually get sick of the game. I know that's happened. I know some devs that's happened to. They're close to a release. They've played it just ad nauseum and all these struggles and get a bit of a sour feeling. It's one game in particular I'm thinking of, and they've just got to the point where they don't enjoy the game anymore. They just want to get it done and get rid of it. I haven't hit that point yet, despite even with the demo. I didn't even get sick of the demo map. I still really enjoy playing it. I did a challenge run for my New Year's stream with hammer mode on the super hard difficulty, Tormented, and it was like an absolute blast. It's like this is probably the most fun way to play it if you're good at it. Like hardest difficulty and hammer mode. It was just so fast and dynamic. You had to play really, really well. Like pick the right upgrades for what you wanted to do, just have an absolute fucking whale of a time. So that's really rewarding, good, something. That even after all this time playing the same map, looking at the same map for over a year, that it still feels like a fun game to me. I'm sure at some point I might get a bit sick of it, but we haven't hit that point yet. And that bodes well, I think, for what we're doing. If I'm still having genuine fun, we must be onto something pretty decent.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If you're still having fun after however many hours you put into this, and then you've got to be doing something right.
Yeah.
I've been reading John Romero's biography, and the one thing that he keeps harping on is I want to make games that I want to play.
Yeah.
So if you're designing a game that you're having a blast playing, then great, you're on the right track. And if you're not having fun, then maybe you're not making the right thing.
Because, I mean, I don't think it comes as a surprise to anyone that if you don't make indie games if you want to get rich, you won't.
Yeah.
I mean, some people have had immense success. Something like Ultra Kill has sold immensely well, actually most of New Blood's games. So you can definitely there's potential there.
But don't bank on it.
Don't bank on it, and from almost never your first game that success either. It's funny. So I think Romero is make the thing you want to play, make the game that you want to play is really important as an indie, because at least then you've made something that you enjoy. Because if you enjoy it and it doesn't sell well, you still made something you like. Something you're proud of, something that's fun for you. If you have fun with it, time spent fun is not time wasted. Because it is really hard to actually market and sell and all that other. That's the whole other side of game dev is that's a tricky business. You can have the best product in the world and it might just not sell. And there's a lot of games being made out there at the moment. I think last year there were 14,000 games released on Steam.
Yeah.
190,000 on itch. But yeah, 200,000 games just on those two platforms. I mean, obviously itch, there's going to be a lot of shovelware and Baby's first game and student projects and all that kind of stuff. But that's how much stuff is being made. That's which is, I think, a good thing. But it does create other issues if you want to be commercially successful. That's a goal for me. I'd like to quit my day job and do this full time, because it's something that I had a lot of fun with. So that's a challenge that I am very focused on and very aware of the difficulties of hitting that self-sustaining point. It's definitely no guarantee. So if you're making something that you enjoy, then at least you've got that. No one else can take away you having fun. Romero's got a lot of good kind of views and wisdom around the art of game creation. He's obviously been around for a long time and is much loved. But he was talking about how he thinks it's really important. Like when you're making a map, whether it's for a game or for Doom or whatever, he's always playing it, he's always testing it, he's always looking at it. So he's like, always have a working build, always make sure that whatever you're making is as playable as possible. That doesn't mean every room you make you have to put all the combat in it and everything and finish it and move on, but make sure that you can always go into that space, experience it, check what you're doing, go, yeah, this feels right. And that the UDB workflow is really good for that. It's interesting because I actually got to interview him a couple of years ago, and he'd made 80 games before Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
I don't think people realise just how much he made, and I bet most of those were commercial successes. So that didn't matter to him. Obviously, they wanted some, commercial success was good, and the success of Wolfenstein and Doom and Quake, turned software into a powerhouse. Both then and now, long-lasting company, doing some really cool stuff over the years. But that didn't stop. If software hadn't been that successful, that wouldn't have stopped Romero making games, because he'd made 80 of them before they were that successful.
Exactly.
He would have kept doing it. And that, I think that's a really interesting and an attitude that people should look to. And yeah, it's hard to emulate that kind of stuff if you're not that. There's personality traits that go into the ability to do that, but that positive outlook on just making stuff you enjoy and making it for yourself first is a very important one, because it can be very tempting to jump on a trend and go, shit, there's lots of this kind of game being made, people are playing it, it's making lots of sales, I should make that kind of game.
Yeah.
One, by the time you actually finish the game, the trend will be over. So if you're noticing the trend and just starting a game, you've missed the trend. But also it means you're probably going to make something you don't like, or like less, and you're going to put less effort into it then. You're probably going to make a worse game if you're just going into a trend chasing mode. Dave Osher's been very vocal about that. How, ironically, given how much they start trends on New Blood, they're making not first-person shooters. They've got like a Fallout isometric RPG thing in the works. He's seen like the boomer shooter trend's it's not gonna end, but it's gonna taper off. We're definitely at a bit of a peak at the moment. There's a lot of that being made, and it's a good one to get into. First person shooters are fairly, as far as games go, they're pretty simple at the core, so you can make a game quite quickly. But yeah, if you think I need to make a boomer shooter because everyone else is making a boomer shooter, don't make. If you want to make a side scroller, like pixel art side scrollers are really popular too. Blasphemous 2 just came out, exquisite game, like not my thing, but I love watching them. There's a lot of passion around that. Horror games are pretty popular. They always seem to be popular. People like being scared.
They had a great year last year. Dead Space remake, Resident Evil 4 remake, Alan Wake 2. Yeah.
But even indies like Iron Lung, stuff
Iron
like that.
Lung, Signalis, I think.
Signalis, yep. Divine Frequency. A little bit of advertising. So make what you want to make, because you never know, that game that you want to make, that thing you really love, that might be the next trend. But you can't predict the trend. So you might as well just make the thing you enjoy.
Yeah, that's got to be tough, managing that, where you have that spirit of creation and you want to just go crazy, but you still got to feed yourself. You still got bills to pay. So some people get very fortunate and they can strike a good balance, and other people, not so lucky.
And that's the make what you love. If commercial success is important to you, that means that you do have to make concessions to the market. That's why I spent 4 months making tutorials. I don't want to do that. That doesn't make my game more fun for me. And Dave Elstree gave a really good. It's a standard talk for him now. He's done it at a few conferences, at a GDC in New Zealand, about how to the art of, I think it's getting good reviews or something like that. How to smooth people experiences with your game, how to remove frustration. And Ultra Kill is the example you use. It's got this great running tutorial, takes you through all the settings, like gets you to like pick your brightness and all that kind of stuff, sound levels. That's all built into the game, is getting you to go through all these systems. The whole thing's done in like 4 minutes. So it's not. It's also not a big 20-minute setup that you're forced to do. And it's like, it's just quick, snappy, but gets the important things across, and then you're into the game. And that's not something that makes it more fun for the devs. That's something that makes it more fun for the players. And yeah, if commercial success is important, then yes, you do need to think about those kinds of things and consider. Sure, you might love it when the game is this brutally hard, but will anyone else?
Yeah.
Probably not. There'll be some. Unless you're FromSoft. FromSoft can get away with it, making things obscenely difficult and not having saves, and have the game just bully you, and people seem to love it. But no one else is FromSoft.
Well, I have to agree. FromSoft seems to get away with a lot of stuff.
They do. They're kind of the exception that proves the rule, really. But the thing that FromSoft does do well is good tutorialization and good management of expectations. So going into a FromSoft game, it's probably going to beat you around the head a few times. So people are ready for that. That's the other big thing, and this goes further than just modding, is managing players' expectations. What preconceptions are they coming in with? And how do they get there? Is that because that was in your marketing material? Is it something you said online? Is it just you've said that your games are Souls-like, therefore they're going to expect Dark Souls 3? Is it a genre thing? So the other thing, things that I do harp on a lot about is management of expectations. How do you get people prepared when they start your game that what they're expecting aligns with what you've made? It'll never be perfect. And if it isn't aligned, how do you quickly get their expectations aligned with your game? And that they go, this is how the game wants me to play. This is the way, the experience I'm going to have. Because the only FromSoft game I've played is Elden Ring. It's fantastic. I'm actually halfway through another run, and for the longest time, the FromSoft games, you died. It was like, that looks frustrating. I don't think I'll like that, so I never touched them. And not because I thought they were bad, but I didn't think I'd enjoy them. That was my expectation. The memes around it, and the way people talked and the kinds of players it attracted. Like, that's probably not for me. And then Elden Ring comes out, and a friend bought it for me. And I do love me a good open world RPG. And Elden Ring has those elements, but it's also, because it is open world, you can just find a hard boss. You can just go do something else. Yeah. You don't have to fight Margit. You can go find. Apparently the teleporter chest to Caleb, which makes it even worse. But even in those scary situations, you've got a lot of options. So there's a lot of player agency in Elden Ring. I'm a big fan of player agency, and that my expectations got kind of flipped, and in a good way, because there are still moments where you get the shit kicked out of you, but it wasn't anywhere near as brutally hard. You died as I thought it would be, and it was an interesting experience to have, a different experience than what I was initially expecting with that one. So management of expectations. It's another really tough kind of amorphous concept to get to grips with, but it's an important one. It can be tough if you're focused on making a game. How do you get the public alongside your idea? That's why publishers exist. To a degree, but it's been a really interesting experience. I've learned a lot over the last couple of years.
That's great. It sounds like it.
Remains to be seen whether that translates to actual success, but it certainly makes some good steps. Because I'm fully prepared for this to not work out the way I want it to, because shit happens, but it won't be for a lack of trying. And at the very least, there's been the journey's been fun so far. If that's all that I take away from everything is that I had a whole lot of fun, then that's still a good thing. Would be nice to be able to quit my day job though.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm personally rooting for that. I sure hope that you guys reach that point where you and the core team at Hellforge can reach a point where it's financially viable to quit your full-time job or take up a part-time just to cover some bills or
Yeah,
whatnot.
exactly.
That would be great.
There's steps that can be part-time jobs and stuff like that. Things that aren't 50-hour-a-week stressful construction project management. That allows more time and energy for the game dev. So yeah, there's steps that can be taken, which is good. But I do have a mortgage, so
Yeah.
I need to have at least some income so I don't get turfed out and the bank claim my home.
Don't want that.
That'll be less productive, less conducive to good game development.
Blessed are the peacemakers.
Well, to wrap things up, I do want to ask you a question that's kind of in the vein of expectations, because sometimes depending on your answer, you can either meet expectations or, they can be underwhelming, what have you. What would be your controversial food opinion? I hate pineapple on pizza, or I don't like this or that.
I think hating pineapple on pizza is not controversial at all, because I do in fact hate pineapple on pizza.
Okay. We're friends now. We are officially
We're
friends.
officially friends. Well, this one will probably be controversial for your Americans. I think pies should always be savory. I think sweet pies are the wrong pie.
I would agree. I'm not much of a sweet tooth, so I love a good shepherd's pie or a
so I'm thinking
cottage
like
pie.
steak and like in New Zealand pies here is like steak and cheese.
Yeah,
pastry. We don't do you can get like apple pie and stuff like that, but in America it's like there's all these fruit. Like pie means sweet fruit pie, pumpkin pie, that kind of stuff. In New Zealand,
it's almost always
pie,
a dessert. Yeah,
if you say pie here in New Zealand, it's like mince and cheese, steak and cheese, bacon and egg, whatever it might be. So that could be seen as controversial to some parts of the world. Pies should be savory. The best dessert is more dinner. I have the opposite of a sweet tooth, whatever that is. There's no such thing as too much garlic. And what's that? Because I actually really love food. Not a bad cook, if I do say so myself. Hot sauce makes everything better.
I tend to agree. I won't go so far as to say I completely agree, but yeah, I am a big hot sauce fan.
Sounds like none of my food opinions are that controversial.
Well, at least to this humble interviewer, no. We'll let the audience chime in the comments below. But I just want to wrap things up. Say thank you so much for coming on to the show and for telling us about what you're working on. I'll make sure that you've got links in the description for your the Hellforge Discord, Twitter, all that good stuff.
Much appreciated. Yeah, the Discord is fully public community server, so anyone's free to join.
Yeah, so stop on by, hang out, say hi.
Where the chaos occurs.
Yep, see the chaos, see the memes. And we will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for stopping by. See ya.
Cheers, mate. Have a good one.